doing ethical foraging with Hannah Jacobson-Hardy. And before we do our presentation, I have a few details to review. We've got this land acknowledgement slide. Christy, if you could drop the link in. We are presenting, attending, and hosting this workshop from land that was managed and inhabited before European colonization. Please take a moment to find your location on this map and honor those whose land you now occupy. We will make every effort to get questions you have answered during the workshop. Please feel free to use the chat feature to comment or ask questions during the workshop. We'll be taking questions throughout. We will try to find time at the end. As I said, you'll be muted to speak. If you have a question, simply click the microphone icon on the bottom of your screen and please stay muted at all times to avoid background noise. To save this chat, you can, there's 3 dots with extra actions. Click the 3 dots and select Save Chat, and it will download to your computer. Our sponsor slides. We have a lot of wonderful people who help support NOFA over the years, and we'd like you to take a look at our gold sponsors and all of our sponsors and do what you can to support them. We also have our online auction, and you can see that right there. And we'll drop the links in as well. And we have our virtual vendors. Please visit our virtual vendors and attend our vendor presentations. We good? That's it. Okay. Perfecto. So right now, I would like to introduce you to our presenter, Hannah Jacobson-Hardy. She's a community herbalist and wellness coach of Sweet Birch Herbals in Ashfield, Mass. She offers herbal consultations, apprenticeships, custom-made formulas and teas, workshops, and a wide variety of products for sale, including full moon ghee. You can find her at sweetbirchherbals.com. So I'll let it go to you, Hannah.
Thank you, Fern and Christy. Thank you for having me tonight. It's an honor to be part of NOFA on this virtual experience. I'm just going to share my screen. Here we go. Okay, should be just able to see that. All right. So this is a topic that I'm very passionate about, and I first want to thank the land and the ancestors of this land. I'm on the Pecumtuck Nipmuc land, and I've inhabited this land for my whole life. Grew up in Northampton, Mass, and have kind of migrated from hill town to hill town over the years, and finally landed myself in Ashfield, where I have a pretty good sized garden and some farm fields and goats and chickens and ducks, and now a miniature horse and a puppy. So a lot of animal life and plant life surrounding me, which I'm very blessed for. And yeah, I just want to thank you all for being here, and we're going to dive in to ethical foraging for connection to place. So part of why I love this topic is because I'm trying to think back to my story of like what connected me to foraging and food, like as early as I possibly can, because those imprints as a young child really impact us, or at least me. So I'm thinking back to when I would visit my grandparents and in southern New Hampshire, and they had a big garden, and blueberry bushes were just everywhere in the wild, and all over the property, as if somebody, maybe they were not planted, I don't know, but they were just everywhere. And so we would harvest blueberries and make pies, and my grandmother would make this thing called blueberry slump, which was just like biscuits boiled in blueberry sauce. And that memory of like that you could take a food from this plant that is growing wild, and no one's maintaining it or pruning it or fertilizing it. It's just happy to be there, and then consume it and make sweet treats with it and enjoy it with family. That really laid this foundation for me, in the work that I do, of having that, how important it is to have that connection to what we eat, which you all know because you're part of NOFA. Okay, so I just wanted to start with this quote by Robin Wall Kimmerer, and she wrote Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants. This book is like, I call it my Bible because I don't really read the Bible or the Haggadah anymore. So it's like, it's not my current Bible. And I keep rereading it and opening up to chapters. It's all about living in the gift world and being aware of the responsibility we have as humans to give back what we're taking, and to thank nature and thank the land, and really like learn how to be what she calls indigenous, or caring for the place and leaving it better than you found it. So know the ways of the ones who take care of you so that you may take care of them. Introduce yourself. Be accountable as the one who comes asking for life. Ask permission before taking. Abide by the answer. I love this because oftentimes I'll be out to forage and I get a no from the plants. So abiding by the answer is, I love that. Never take the first, never take the last. Take only what you need. Take only that which is given. Never take more than half. Leave some for others. Harvest in ways that minimize harm. Use it respectfully and never waste what you have taken. Share, give thanks for what you're being given. Give a gift in reciprocity for what you have taken. Sustain the ones who sustain you, and the earth will last forever. So I kind of constructed this into my more, like, I did a numerical of how I see this to be, and I put it into a format that I make all of my students sign before we do a workshop about wild edibles and medicinals, and all my apprentices sign this document. It feels really formal or something, like, oh, it's not really like a legal document, there's no lawyer involved, but it's just to like acknowledge that that this is a gift, and we're not here to like take, and we're not giving money in exchange to the earth. We're really in this relationship. So it's a privilege to forage and visit these beautiful locations that have edibles, medicinals, and even the invasive plants that we call, plants that are called invasive, which I don't really like that word. So I use a word that Jade of Milk and Honey Herbs taught me, which is opportunistic plants. Even those plants we have to respect and ask for permission and give our thanks. So, and then these lands that we're on are all sacred, no matter if we're in an urban area or a very, wild area, or a national park, or the local dump. Like everywhere we go is sacred. So seeing this relationship we're entering into by foraging as sustaining it for future generations. So this is what I have people read as never harvest unless I'm given permission from the plant, which is, if you're new to foraging, it can be like, well, what does that mean? How, like, do the plants talk, or how would I know? And the way I describe it is just sit with the plant first, and say you're in a field of goldenrod, which is like in full bloom right now. And, you don't just go out there and start cutting it back. You just sit and watch the bees, watch the moths and the butterflies, and give it a minute to just land and be present. And you can verbally ask, or you can just kind of mentally say it in your head. And you'll notice, like, at least I do, I feel this like warmth, I guess, of just like, yes, you know, take me. This is like, I love to be used medicinally. I would love to go into your apothecary. And then there's times where I ask and I don't feel a, if I don't feel a clear yes like that, I don't do it because it's not maybe the right time, or it's not the right place, or I don't feel this warmth or excitement, or energized by it, or and sometimes I'll even hear words, you know, from the plant world, which is a whole other topic of like connecting to the spirits of the plants. But this is just a good like muscle to tone, I guess, is to learn to be present with the plants. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. And even if you're like someone who forages a lot, like I'll sometimes be like, oh, I don't need to do that because I like, this is what I do, right? And I get kind of like, you know, ahead of myself and think I'm all special. And then I like get, you know, a thorn in my finger, or I trip over a root and fall over, like something will happen that'll kind of like smack me out of that and be like, no, you're not better than anybody else. Like, you can ask, you can slow down. So it's very humbling to work with the plants. And Robin Wall Kimmerer wrote Never Take Half, and I wrote 10%. It really depends on the plant we're talking about. Like, if it's a field of goldenrod, there's no way you're going to take like 50%. There's so much goldenrod. What would you do with 50%, or even 10%? But it's just a way of being mindful of like seeing how much is there, and then not taking, you know, definitely not more than half. But if it's something like, you know, Japanese knotweed root, which I harvest in the spring and fall, I mean, there's no way I could ever take 10% of any of the plant because it's very prolific. But you know, that in that situation, like, you don't have to be mindful of taking too much because there's plenty of Japanese knotweed. Whereas like ramps, which are a wild onion that comes up in the early spring, they take 7 years to reproduce. So if you take even 10% of the population, that's gonna really cut back on their proliferation. So just be mindful, you know, and we can get greedy and think, oh, well, it'll be fine, it'll come back. But then there's other things like some flowers, like flowers love to be deadheaded because then they produce more flowers depending on the flower. So like bee balm right now is flowering in my garden, and every time I cut the flowers off, more start to grow up, and it's like encouraging growth. Even sweetgrass, like from braiding sweetgrass, likes to be cut because that means that more energy is going down to the root and then going to send up new growth. So you actually create more abundance. So every plant is different. Leaving no trace, so just not like trashing the place, or, you know, digging up a big hole of stuff and digging all these roots and then like leaving it look like something dug around. Just want to like put the earth kind of back together. And then if you find something that would do well where you live, then and you're out in the, you know, in the woods or somewhere that has, say, like I've taken blue cohosh or black cohosh or nettles, you know, if that's growing in an area where it's prolific. Like, I love digging up plants and bringing them to my garden or bringing them to my yard or a friend's house, and just keep like giving them away and giving them a new home so that they spread to new regions. Obviously, you wouldn't do that with like bittersweet or Japanese knotweed or barberry root, but you know, the ones that are opportunistic can stay where they are. And then I ask my students not to take people to the locations that we visit during class, because it's like I'm entrusting them to kind of keep this like not a secret, but not take everybody they know, like, oh, we went to this place during class and we got all these fiddleheads, like it was so great, because then you never really know who's going to come back and take way too many or not know how to harvest properly. So it's just kind of a safety precaution. And then I don't like share GPS pinpoints with people about locations that are especially like endangered or have plants that are really fragile and sensitive. And obviously you don't want to harvest an endangered plant. You can buy endangered plants and then plant them in your garden and let them keep producing. And I always offer gratitude. So for me, that's just if I'm out in the woods and don't expect to be harvesting, then I just say thank you and I talk to the plant. Or I have a lot of hair, so sometimes I'll pull out a piece of hair and leave it on the earth as a way of like giving some of myself, my DNA, to the earth and the plants, saying thank you. Sometimes people sing a song, and traditionally I was taught by my Native American teachers to do offer tobacco to the plants, because tobacco is a symbolism of like feeding the spirits of the earth, so that like deep yummy nourishment. And one of the first seed packets I ever was given was at the Garlic and Arts Festival in Orange about probably 5 or 6 years ago, and the seeds were tobacco seeds. And I thought, that's weird, I've never grown tobacco before, like that would be interesting. I don't even know what it really looks like other than what I've seen in like Hadley with the huge plants, and then the coming and harvesting and hanging them. So every year I save the seeds from those tobacco plants and I grow them again. And I just dry it in a barn, and then I crumple it up and offer it to the plants when I go out to harvest. So I have a little tobacco bundle that I just bring with me. And sometimes I forget, so I just offer something else. And we're doing questions as we go. I don't have the chat up in front, so I don't know if there's questions, but if there are, Christy.
Hi, Hannah. Yes, we do have some questions. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
I'll start at the bottom and work my way up. Some herbal foragers have told me that they no longer teach foraging because despite telling their students everything you have said, they watch people run into the wild and greedily gather up everything. It's really heartbreaking and discouraging. Are you seeing a lot more of that?
The only time I've seen that was, and I don't know who it was, and I definitely don't think it was any of my students, because they were all there the second time we went to a spot for ramps, and it was this spring, and it was the same group of people that were with me the year before, and it was like devastating. I mean, there were thousands and thousands of plants there the year before, and then there were maybe hundreds. It was just but that everybody was there and they were all like grieving and sad, and we had a big circle about it. And then we talked about, the greed and the money of like, well, maybe this person made a few $100 to sell all these ramps. So I haven't experienced that like firsthand, and I'm not gonna like I'm not really talking about sensitive plants in this class so much. I usually do plants that are opportunistic or invasive, or would take a lot of energy to reduce the population of that spread really prolifically. So I'm all about encouraging harvesting what there's a lot of, and then being more not teaching too much about like the more sensitive, vulnerable, endangered plants.
Okay. Somebody else said that they have heard that it's wrong to spread native plants from one area to another, and you seem to have the opposite view. Have you heard this objection, and what do you think about it?
I would say if you're spreading a native plant to a region that's not it's not native to. Again, this languaging is really hard for me. The invasive, the alien, the native, all the languaging I think is like kind of colonizer language too. So, but I just want to like put that out there. It's a whole other topic. But plants that were here originally that you can then buy and plant them, I think that's great. Like bloodroot, I'll keep planting that, and it's wonderful to go into my woods and see bloodroot growing in a place where it probably used to grow, but it isn't there anymore. So I think if it's from the place that you're planting it, I have no issue of that, because I will say, like, we can't go back in time, but we can like impact and benefit and like make a more positive change in the future. And we are growing with the earth, and we are evolving with the earth and all the plants, and they've evolved with us for thousands of years. So it's never gonna ever look the way it looked thousands of years ago, in my opinion. But right now we have to work with what we have and make that more beautiful world with what the gifts that we are being given.
Okay. And then one last piece, Christy asked, she said that she has heard that that no more than a third is what indigenous people recommend for foraging. You were saying 10%, and she had heard 3% from indigenous people.
3% or 30%?
A third, I'm sorry, a third. No more than a third.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the plant that we're talking about, and Robin Wall Kimmerer wrote 50%. So I think it's just plant, dependent, because nettles, for example, the more you cut them back, the more they grow. So it's like you're encouraging more abundance by cutting them back. Whereas other things that you're digging the root of, that would be more, I would say, the 10 to 20% range. So, okay
then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it for the questions for now. And again, you can continue to put them in the chat, and we'll get to them in the next part. Thanks.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
So these are some safety tips, and one of the things I know I've forgotten in this list, which I'll just start with because otherwise I'll forget again, is never forage from underneath power lines, because power lines, there's often chemicals sprayed to deter the growth underneath them. And never forage along roadsides, so like within 50 feet of a regular road and maybe 100 feet of a busy road, and maybe 300 feet from like a highway. So not being too close to roads where there's a lot of fumes and salts and chemicals coming out of, and heavy metals coming out of the cars. So and then obviously don't forage where there's been any spraying or chemicals and pesticides. And it's hard to know exactly, but if you're like in a conventional farming area and you notice that there's some, like I was walking in a field the other day in Hadley, and suddenly there was just like yellow leaves, like probably 15, 20 feet up in the air, all the way up the trees. And it was like, ooh, get me out of here. So I went the other direction, and that yellow was just like some kind of chemical that someone had sprayed. So just be mindful of like where you're at and what chemicals might be sprayed. And certain plants like that are less liked, such as the Japanese knotweed, often people spray. So go to places that won't be sprayed. So if it's like a park and you call ahead and say, do you do any spraying? No. Okay, great. Yeah, just take that precaution. And always be 100% sure that what you're foraging is safe to consume before consuming it. And the best way to do this is to ask somebody that knows what they're doing, because the plant books and ID books for me are challenging even to identify. And a lot of people send me images, like photos of plants. Like just today I went somewhere to a friend's who said, I have wormwood growing in my yard, can you come and make sure it's wormwood? Because she was sending me photos, and I was like, it's really hard to tell because it could be mugwort. And I mean, they're very similar, so I wasn't like concerned that she was gonna take something she shouldn't. But I just stopped by, and sure enough, it was mugwort. It wasn't wormwood. And plants just can vary so much. Like this mugwort was growing really tall and looked kind of like wormwood. And so just don't do anything unless you're 100% sure. And sometimes a fearful mind, like after you eat something where you're like, I don't know, was that 100% sure? That can cause like stomach upset, just the anxiety. So, be aware if it's your nerves or something you ate, because I know I store my nerves in my stomach. So I've done that before, and then I forget that I ate it like 2 hours later and I'm fine. So um, things I like to bring with me are baskets, gloves, a trowel for digging, and some bags, and an offering. You can bring ID books with you to learn new plants and mushrooms. And just if you're not 100% sure, we could bring it back with you and bring it to somebody and ask them, what they think this is. And with mushrooms, it's good to be extra cautious. There aren't like a ton of mushrooms that will kill you, but there are some that will kill you. And a lot of them will just give you a really bad stomach ache. So go with somebody that knows what they're doing. And I don't know everything, so I'll go for walks with mushroom experts to learn more. And it's really good to just say, I don't know, when you don't know something, instead of, trying to make people think because you want to be liked, and that doesn't work for anybody. And everybody's bodies are different. So if you're like new to, say, a mushroom, a wild mushroom like maitake, some people have no problem digesting them, whereas others have like an allergic reaction. And it's not that the mushroom's poisonous, it's just that you can be allergic to pretty much anything. So try a tiny bit first, and always cook mushrooms. Doesn't matter if it's store-bought or not. Every single mushroom should be cooked, and take a little bit and wait a couple hours and see how you feel before eating a whole meal of them. Because my mom once ate a huge plate of maitake at Christmas and then had a rough night because she learned she was allergic to them. All right. So what I do before going foraging, or when I'm out foraging, or and I'll say a lot of times I don't plan on it. I'm just like taking a walk in the woods, or and I like all of a sudden stumble across something and I'm like, oh wow. And that, so I'm not prepared. I don't have any baskets or anything with me. I've taken like shirts off and just like put things in shirts and my pockets, and made bags out of like a big leaf and stuff. So it's just, it is what it is. But I just ground into the earth and sit still for a while. And then sometimes I just meditate or sing a little song and ask the plant world if I would be invited to join them. And oftentimes I don't even plan on it, like I said, and then I'll I don't get a lot of like auditory stuff, but it's more visual and sensations for me. So I'll be somewhere and then suddenly I'll just like feel that there's something over there. And then it's like, oh, wow, ghost pipe. Whoa, okay, cool. And then more ghost pipe and more. And then I just like think, oh, this plant is like, they want to be seen. They want to be connecting to you. And they want to be just like healing us healing them. It's a reciprocal relationship. So when we get still and into their level, and their languaging, it gets a little bit easier. And then I asked this question of like, how will you care for the land that you walk upon? Because I worry about the future. That's something that sometimes keeps me up at night. And this whole point of teaching about ethical foraging is to really become a better land steward, and then guide others to become better land stewards, because we're here temporarily, but we have a responsibility to leave this land, whether we like own land or are renting or whatever. Just wherever you walk is there's a Navajo word that my teacher says, hojonie, and that means to walk in beauty. So wherever your feet land is that more growth will come up, and more beauty, and more abundance, for future generations. So, and this question is something that's always been with me, but now that I bought a piece of land and a house a few years ago, and the first thing I did when I got like the keys and everything is I just sat outside and I spoke to the land. I didn't even go in the house. I was kind of like overwhelmed by it. And so I was just like, I'm going to sit outside. And I had this whole conversation with the land, and it was really powerful. And I released ownership. And I told the land, I'm releasing all ownership of you. I just want to be a steward. And I know that I'm going to say that I own you, or that I, pay the bank and all that. But this is like, our relationship is different. Like, our relationship is equal. And I want the land to know that, because I hope to be here a while, and I hope to leave it in better shape. So I just want to take this like a minute or two here and let you tune into the land that you're sitting on right now, or standing on, or wherever you are, and just, what do you hear? What do you feel? Is it the crickets? Is it the birds? Is it, what are some sensations? So you can ask yourself these questions, or you can just close your eyes and just a minute or two to really land, and maybe you'll be surprised. Maybe you won't hear anything. Maybe, but it's just good to be silent and start that connection. Maybe you've done this many times. So yeah, I'm just gonna take a minute here to be quiet. Okay, so you're welcome to like type into the chat anything that you felt or saw, and we can look at it in a little bit. But I don't even know if I can see the chat. Maybe I can. I don't know. It's all going to be a mystery because I don't know how to see the chat.
Hey, Hannah. So
Yeah.
if you go down to the bottom, it says there's a little icon. It says chat. If you go down to the bottom of your Zoom screen.
Yeah, I don't have any icons. That's okay.
I think while you're presenting, you probably won't be able to see it, but we can read it too.
That's okay. Yeah, if someone wants to read a few of them, that would be great.
I'm sorry, say that again, to read the
if there's any there, just to read a few of them and see
questions.
Just if anybody had any like sensations or messages or thoughts or
Got it.
anything that they felt in that minute of sitting with the land. Oh, I can see chat.
Can you see it? No. It
Mm.
says from Christy, that was actually the first time I've done that. Thank you. I saw underground water and deer. Very peaceful. Thank you, Christy.
Hmm. Cool. Well, I'll share what I saw or felt. So usually when I teach, we're like in a circle, like outside. I've been teaching outside for the last year and a half because of COVID, and we usually sit in circles. And so when I was just noticing how weird it is to be like on a screen and like seeing all these zigzags, like we're all connected, but it was like zigzagging because we're all in different parts of the country or world. So it was actually kind of neat. It kind of felt more like a spider web because we weren't just in like one circle, but it was like connecting all these places, which is, I think, pretty hopeful, like that we can do this, even though it's a little weird. We can do this over a screen. So thank you. Okay. So our outer earth, the earth we walk on, is also inside of all of us too. So that's part of why I love herbal medicine and foraging, is that we are consuming, and organic gardening. I grow about probably 60% of my food, hoping to get to more, but that everything we consume is who we are. So what I love about herbs in particular is that they have their own immune systems, and that's the volatile oils of them, like thyme and oregano and rosemary have a lot of that smell. When you touch them, it just kind of wafts in the air. Or if you brush by a plot of like tulsi or bee balm, like you smell the aromatics. That's the plant's immune system. So when we consume it in a tea or tincture, or just eating it, then we're absorbing the plant's immune system, and we're getting the benefits of the antimicrobes and the antifungals and antivirals, and creating a stronger internal core structure. So that's what I love about that connection. So whoops, I don't know how to go back, but I was essentially that. And so this is a 5-element system that I work off of in traditional Chinese medicine. It's the way I was trained, and now I fall more into Western medicine, but my baseline is traditional Chinese because it's really cool to understand and see things through all the elements, because we have all the elements inside of us, we have all the elements outside of us. All the plants represent different elements. So right now we're in the earth element. So we've just as of August 1st kind of descended into earth time and out of fire time. And the solstice is like fire, and now we're in the harvest, the earth time. So there's berries and seeds and nuts and still leaves and greens, but more of the energy is starting to go downward into the plant after it goes to flower and seed and dies back. So I won't go too much into all the elements because that's a whole other class, but it's a really wonderful way of living seasonally, understanding our bodies and how they change seasonally, and which plants to harvest at what time of year. And I think that you'll get emailed a handout, unless you've already got it, that I have of all the different months of the year and what I harvest in those different months. Some of it's just herbs in my garden and veggies from the garden, but some of it's foraging. Here's a little, we're not gonna read this whole thing, but this is like an excerpt of the calendar that I put in your handout. And right now we're in August, so it's the beginning of goldenrod, and asters, which I love that they flower together. And oyster mushrooms and the black trumpets are kind of on their way out. Chanterelles have kind of passed, but sweetgrass and tulsi is a very abundant, holy basil. Hawthorn berries are coming in, and elderberries are starting, and always lavender. So this is like my little how to remember what to do every month calendar. So you have it in your handout and you can refer to it another time. So we're in the beginning of August, and the first of the month is Lammas, and it's the time of like cooking the foods from your garden, baking bread, celebrating the harvest, making hay. The corn begins, and in the Chinese element, the earth time is related to our stomach and our spleen. And these are the organs of digestion and assimilation of nutrients so that it can go where it needs to go in the body. And we want to eat more, like start eating a little bit more roots and potatoes and cabbage and squash and garlic and a little bit more denser, sweeter foods to help transition from the heat of the summer into the fall and the colder months of winter. Okay, so this is a whole other class, but I want to at least give you the slides to look at later too, is that what the spleen and the stomach represent. I don't know if any of you have like sort of at this time of year, like stomach things start to arise. I just noticed like patterns in working with clients over the years of like certain things start to arise that are like exactly in alignment with the season. But the stomach is the yang organ. It's fiery, it breaks down the food, wants to be warm, but not too hot, not too cold. And then it passes the food to the small intestine, which then transforms it into who you are, pulls out the nutrients, or passes it along to the large intestine to release it. So it's about transformation of food into fuel, food into who you are. It's that like, I am becoming this plant is now becoming me. And then the spleen is the one that makes the blood and makes a lot of digestive enzymes and juices to break down the food and helps to discern what's nutrients and what's not. And a lot of times the spleen gets this thing called dampness, and that can be like feeling tired and sluggish and unmotivated. Whereas the stomach's imbalance is like ruminating on things and not able to make decisions in a timely manner and just kind of like wishy-washy. And then if you have a damp spleen too, then you just feel a little bit like lack of motivation, tired, and the foods that'll do this are ice cream, unfortunately. But yeah, cold, damp dairy foods like yogurt and ice cream, plus the sugar can all really be hard on the stomach and the spleen. So I always just add like cinnamon or ginger to warm up things that are cold and damp. So the earth time is also, the reason why I kind of had you do that, like sit with the land for a moment thing, is because it's also a time to really start slowing down after the busy rush of the summer of like, okay, the garden's been planted, like it's pretty, like it's either weeded or it's not, you know, like the weeds pressure is a little less, and you can take a breath now and really ask, like, am I receiving the full nourishment of my foods? Am I eating too fast? Am I blessing the meal? Am I slowing down? So it's about getting a little more grounded in your center, because every time we transition to a new season, there is actually earth time in all the transition points of the map that we looked at before. And that's to help us like ground before going to a new place. This is a really cute calendar that Brittany Nickerson of Time Herbal and Chelsea Granger made for harvesting and wildcrafting. I have it in my house, and it's really fun to to put up somewhere. They're pretty good size, like they're bigger than a notebook, so you can put it up on your wall and look at it and just remember. And most of these plants in here are either things you can grow or forage that are pretty prolific, and not like, I don't see any that I would really worry about, like golden seal root maybe. Yeah, cultivated only, they've got in parentheses, but most of these are pretty abundant where we live. So are there any questions before I move on to, here, I can actually look at the, where is it, the chat? Oops.
So far, we don't have any other questions. Anybody, while we're on this, does anybody have any questions?
Okay. Great. So the wild foods are firstly very densely nutritious. Most of them, like if you compare some of the wild greens out there, are going to be 30 times more nutritious than kale or spinach that you buy in a grocery store. So you might find that you have to eat less of them, or you don't need to eat as much quantity or mass or calories because they are so densely nutritious. And sometimes if you eat too much of them, you might get a little bellyache, and that's usually because the wild greens are a little bit more fibrous. Some plants have a higher amount of inulin in them, which is a fiber that is a little more difficult to break down if your body's not used to eating it. Like sunchokes have a lot of inulin, and burdock root has a lot of it. And other animals forage naturally, like goats. There's this one spot that it's like starting now, well, they're not quite ready, I saw them the other day, but mid-August, end of August, the blackberries start to ripen, and then I go picking with the goats, and they usually beat me to most of the ripe ones first. So now we're getting into more of this is called Materia medica. So I'm not going to read every single thing here, but I wanted you to have it to reference, but the things that are in bloom right now. So if we taught this class, I do a lot of spring edible classes because there's so many delicious spring greens and things that come up for like dandelions and burdock, and but this is going to be just about what's available right now. And they're not all wild, but some of them are medicinal, and we use the same protocol for when we harvest cultivated things as wild things. I think is just being aware, that they're growing out of the earth. And I will say before I move on, like some of the topics that I want to address more so, and I don't know if we'll have time for tonight, but like the idea of private property and ownership, and you always want to have like permission to harvest if you're on some neighbor's land or something. It's always better to ask for permission or just like check in with them. And some places like national parks and trustees of reservations and conservation areas, it's best to not be picking there. And I also think trust your inner compass and listen to the plants, because I've been in, trustees reservations places and heard, yes, take me from the plants. And then I've also heard, no, leave me. So it's like getting that muscle toned of listening to what the plants have to say, because I don't think that they operate in the same physical boundaries and private property that humans do. So, and I'm a little bit of a rebel in that way. Like, I don't always follow the rules. So, and the other thing I'll add is that getting to know your heritage and what your ancestors grew and what they foraged, before, whether you're indigenous to Native America, or this land we call Native America, or if you're from Europe, you know, like my ancestors are all Eastern European, English and Polish and Russian, and so I'm really interested in diving into what they grew and what they foraged and cooked and what kind of meals they had, because I want to know, like, you know, what's in my blood. And it's like an endless place to search too, because there's so much out there. And there's a new book that just came out this year called Ashkenazi Herbalism. And I shouldn't even say it's an endless search, because this person who wrote the book said it was really hard to write it because most of the information about Ashkenazi Jews and herbalism was wiped out on purpose. So it's challenging for her to do all this research because there wasn't a lot of information out there. But she did well. She wrote a whole book about it. So diving into what plants your family grew, and for me, it's a lot of garlic, and I love garlic. So anyway, so this is one thing in bloom right now is echinacea, and it's a wonderful antimicrobial and immune stimulant, and moves the blood and the lymph. So I think it would be great for, especially this time of year, or this world we're in with COVID, is like have your own echinacea tincture on hand always, because it helps to move the mast T cells, which is your surface immune system, and flush out pathogens, microbes, toxins that get accumulated in the blood. Helps treat strep and bronchitis, coughs and scratchy throats. So it's also good for allergy season. And it's a good mouthwash as well. I put it into my dental rinses. And the pollinators, they love all the butterflies and bees. They love the echinacea. And you can use the leaves, the flowers, and the roots, harvesting the roots in the spring and the fall, because that's when more of the energy of the plant is down in the root, is before it's in full flower and leafing out. I tincture them separately. A tincture is an extract and alcohol, and so I do mostly tinctures and teas, because the teas are great and they last a year of dried herbs, but the tinctures last like 3 to 5 years. So you can make a lot and have it on hand and don't have to worry about it going rancid. This is an amazing one, hawthorn, for the heart and building the blood and calming the nervous system, and reduces high blood pressure. And it's native to Europe, but it does grow here. And I just planted one, and it's about 4 inches tall. So maybe in like 5 years I will have a hawthorn berry. And it does grow in the wild. It does spread. It's not like super aggressive plant, but the birds eat the berries and then they poop them out and drop them somewhere so that a new plant will grow. And I just found one of these trees. It's very hard for me to find them. I have not had, maybe it's not my medicine, but I haven't seen a lot of them. And then last summer, I was where my grandparents used to live, and I talked about them in the beginning, and there was this huge, beautiful hawthorn tree with the brightest red berries, and it was like the tree was like shaking. I was like, what is going on? And it was so full of birds that the whole tree was just like vibrating back and forth. So I didn't harvest any, because I was like, leave it for the birds, let them take them and spread the seed, and maybe we'll get some more hawthorn trees here. But that was really sweet. It made me think of my grandparents. So I use the leaves and the flowers and the berry, and I make syrups with it and tinctures, and you can drink the tea. You can cook it into applesauce, the berries, and then use like a food mill to get the seeds out. It makes really good applesauce. It's kind of a sweet, bland flavor. So the sweet and the bland help to build the stomach and the spleen energy of the body. And red raspberry or wild black raspberry, blackberries too, but that's actually a separate one. It does different things, but these grow cultivated or wild at this point. They kind of are all over the place. And this is one of the best like food as medicines for building minerals and nutrients in the body. It's full of trace minerals, vitamins, and helps with building up the body for pregnancy after the first trimester. And it tones the uterus and nourishes the mother and the baby. And it also helps the uterus to go back to where it was before after giving birth, and helps with menstrual irregularities because it's so high in magnesium. The berries are really high in vitamin C, so great for cold and flu prevention. And I just pick them and freeze them for the winter. And then the leaves are also medicinal. You can harvest the leaves of the raspberry any time of year as long as or any time of the growing season as long as they're green. They have a silver undertone underneath the leaves. And then you dry them and make tea with them. You can make raspberry vinegars with them. You can make jams with the berries. And it's just fun to like start recognizing where the wild berries are growing. And this one's pretty easy. You've all seen a raspberry before. And then blackberries are a little different. The root of blackberries and the leaves of blackberries helps to treat digestive upsets and diarrhea. So they're a little different. I wouldn't make like a tea just to sip on for nourishment with the blackberry. I would use the raspberry. So this is a cool one that's not known as well, but is everywhere around here. It's wild lettuce, not to be confused with like a yummy, delicious lettuce for eating, because it's prickly and it's very, very bitter, and it has a white, the inside has a white milkiness to it. That's the latex, kind of like when you dandelions have it too. So when you break open the stem or the leaves, there's kind of like a milky whiteness. And this one is making itself known. It's coming. It's everywhere right now. And it is wonderful for sleep. I put it in all my sleep formulas as a tincture. I don't know if I would drink the tea. It's just so bitter. And I think you have to enjoy the plants that you're eating and drinking. Like I just got I go to an acupuncturist, I got a new formula, and I hated the taste of it. I was like, this is disgusting. I'm not going to drink this. And I said to her, I was like, it doesn't make me feel good. I don't like the taste of it. And I'm not I don't think that we should be like forcing ourselves to take nasty tasting medicine. Like, I think the better it feels, like the better it is for us. So I brought it all back to her and I was like, can you redo this and just add something a little more warming and less drying? Because it felt inside of me like, ooh, I don't want that. So she redid it and it's much better. And that's why I like tinctures, because they you can dilute them. You just take like a shot of them. You don't have to drink a whole teacup of it to get in the medicine. It's like a concentrated extract. So it's better for the bitter things like wild lettuce. So it helps the nervous system. It reduces pain from bruises and fractures, back pain, joint pain, organ pain, tooth pain, anything with like body pain or anxiety about pain. And it relieves tension and constraint. So I don't know, like if you're probably familiar with this, at least I am, like the feeling is just like there's something wrong, but I don't want to move through it. I'm just constrained, and like it's called liver constraint, or liver constraint, liver qi constraint in Chinese medicine. And it's the body is either full of toxins and not processing them right, or you're not exercising enough, or the lymph isn't moving. So it just feels like a block, you know? So wild lettuce helps to kind of calm things down. It's anti-anxiety, so that you can like move through whatever you're moving through with a little bit more ease. Really helpful for pain that keeps you up when you want to sleep too. So not only is it calming and good for sleeping, it's also good for pain that keeps you awake at night. And it's really good for like overexcitement or sexual overexcitement, good with hops, because it kind of like calms things, centers things. It's used for people that are getting treated or overcoming addiction and battling substance abuse, because it just helps to kind of calm things down. And you know, that feeling of like when you're withdrawing from anything, like whether it's sugar, caffeine, alcohol, the drugs out there, you know, that people get hooked on from pharmaceuticals, like heroin. I work in a clinic with people that are detoxing from heroin and other substances, and wild lettuce would be great for that. Just kind of like mellows things out as you are coming off of it treats opium addiction too. So I think it works through like the central nervous system. And it does, I do say you can eat it. I think you can eat it in small, really small. When it gets big, it's like tough and bristly, has like little prickers all over like little hairy prickers on the edges. It'll have this, it can get tall. Like the plant growing here is like maybe 9 feet tall right now. And I keep saying I'm going to cut it down, but it's just like, it's magnificent to look at. So I haven't cut it down yet. But you would harvest it. The best time to harvest it is when it's about to flower. So 9 feet tall, it still hasn't fully flowered yet. So it would be a good time to cut it and use it. But I already have wild lettuce in my apothecary, so I'm going to let this one just do its thing. So it cools liver heat or fire rising headaches. What does that mean? That means like if you ever get a headache or a migraine that kind of goes over, like up the neck and over the top of your head, and then like down into above your eyebrows and into your eyes, like that's usually a liver or gallbladder headache. And it can feel like hot, and you might feel like irritated. So this can help really calm the headaches and restlessness and irritability. But you'd also want to look into like why it's happening, you know, like what's the stem, what's the root of what's going on here. Relieves constraint in the lungs, moves qi or energy. Antispasmodic, so it means it stops the spasms of coughing, the feeling like you're about to cough. Treats whooping cough and tuberculosis. It's a diuretic and helps to move water and edema. And it's super bitter. That's probably why it does that, because it's like, you know, making you pee and moving water out. Immune system, it's been known to have anti-malarial properties, and topically, if you take that white latexy stuff from the stem and the leaves and put it onto warts and skin tags and growths, it can help like break down those. I haven't tried it yet, but experiment on yourself. That's the best way to do it. That's how I did it. I just treated myself with all these things for many years, and then finally felt like I might be able to talk to other people about their problems. Edible and delicious when small, and still edible if put through several changes of water. Yeah, I just never do that. You know, when you're foraging and it says like, what is it, marsh marigold? It's one of them, like boil it 3 times and discard the water and then eat it. I'm like, I barely have time to cook dinner. I'm not going to boil the water 3 times. Like, this is like if I were starving and really needed food, then I would do it for sure. But I don't, thank God. Thank you. But yeah, if you want to go for it, but not the way I prepare food.
Hannah, we have a question.
Sure.
Marty wants to know, with wild lettuce, do you need to milk it or just make a regular tincture?
Milk it. You mean put it in milk? What do you mean?
Marty,
No, I've heard some preps saying that you actually need to like extract the the latex like exudate, and that's where the active constituents are, rather than just chopping it up and putting it in high proof alcohol like we normally would. But you
Yeah, I just put it all in
very good.
alcohol. Yeah. Yeah. I barely have time to milk the goats. I don't think I'll be milking the wild lettuce. I mean, maybe it would make it way stronger. Like it probably would make it much stronger, but I've not heard that. I've just heard put it into a blender with alcohol, and that's the way I've made it, and it always seems to work for me. It tastes bitter and strong, and yeah, but I haven't done that. Yeah, I'm much more of like folk medicine. Like I love like the easier. I'm a little like not lazy. I just like want to like there's a lot of stuff I want to do. So I like if it's really complicated like that, then I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do something else. So I haven't done that before. So this one is out and about right now. Indian pipe or ghost pipe, ice plant or corpse plant. And it grows in acidic soil, and it's not a mushroom, it's a plant, but it's kind of in between in a weird way. So it feeds off of the nutrients of the mycelium that are connected to trees. So it's like a parasite on the mycelial networks. It doesn't photosynthesize, it has no chlorophyll, and it grows in like white pine acidic forests near moss and pine needles, and it's like really good with the wild lettuce because it's calming, it's pain relieving, helps you sleep. And some people think it's mildly psychoactive. I haven't had that experience, but I usually add like a tiny bit to each formula, so it's not enough to really do that, but it could maybe if you drank a lot of it, or made tea with it. I find that it just kind of puts me into like a chill like space of mind, and the like chattery mind that I'm usually in, of like a lot of ideas and thoughts and images, just like mellows out a little. And you know, the word trance might be there, but just like all of the like flutteringness just kind of goes away, and it helps to focus. And I think if you had too much of it would make you a little spacey, but that's okay if you're sleeping. Probably not great if you're like studying or trying to stay awake for this class or something. I made the mistake of letting everybody in my class try it last class because they were flowering, and it like it chilled everyone out to the point of like, are they even like listening to me right now? Like the whole room went from really chatty and excited to just like, whoop. And it's amazing, like plants work fast too. Like some things take few weeks to build up in our body, more of like the nourishing ones and the adaptogen ones. But then there's some plants that just like go for it because they go right into the bloodstream. They pass through the blood-brain barrier. They don't need to go through your digestive system. It's like you don't need that half an hour to digest it. It's like boom, there. So this is one of them. It's kind of magical the way it grows. It's a little bit pink, mostly white. They have these little saxophone looks to them, and then after they have matured, they go to seed, and then they turn more erect and straight and are like reaching up to the sky, and then they have spores that go out, kind of like mushrooms. So really neat one that I think can be over harvested because they're a more delicate one. So don't go out and like clear cut the whole forest of them, but just take like one plant. And you know, this is a tricky one because the most of the medicine is actually in the root of it. So a lot of people ask me, can I just make the medicine with the top of it? And you can, but most of the medicine for it is in the root, which is a really cool looking thing. It's like a ball that it doesn't have like long tap roots. It's just like this little ball of roots that are kind of reddish orange. And then when you tincture it, you would only need one plant to make a tincture, really. Like you don't need to pick more than one or two. Like you'll make a lot with just one. And when you tincture it, the moment that it hits the alcohol, it starts to turn like a dark purple blue. So it goes from this like white color to dark blue, purple. It's magical. It's like, it's really cool. And then if you look up what's in this, like what causes it, I haven't Googled it lately, but my teachers have said that there's not a lot of data about them and like they don't really know what's going on. They're just kind of like this mysterious plant, but and I love that about it. It's like in between mushroom. It's like tapped into the mushroom world and then also like it's plant. So when I did a plant spirit journey to it last week, the plant just like showed me how we're all connected, and it was like showing me the web underneath the earth of all the mycelium and mycorrhizal networks, and how everything was just like, you think you're over here and you're like a little piece of earth, but like it's all this like blanket of mycelial network underneath, and that we all need each other, and the importance of community, and that you're not like on a little isolated island alone, that there's always somebody out there to reach out to and connect with. So I thought that was really sweet, especially with how isolating COVID was for a lot of us, is just like remembering that. And so you can make, what we did was we made a flower essence with it. So we didn't even harvest the plant. We just put the bowl of water next to it, and it gets the energy of the ghost pipe into it. And I left it for the day to sit with the plant, and then we went off and did other things and came back, and it just infused that energy of it. So it's a little different than it's much different from a tincture, but it gets the more of the like spiritual and imprint of the plant in there, which is powerful. I thought it wasn't. I didn't understand it for a long time. Then I got really sick and did everything imaginable to get better and spent thousands of dollars to get better, and nothing worked. And then I went and saw a flower essence specialist, and she gave me this tiny little bottle of flower essences. And I was like, well, I am a plant person, but really? And so I took like this bottle, and within probably like a month, I mean, I felt different immediately, but then like a month later, everything was cleared up. So I am no longer a disbeliever in it. So mushrooms are a whole other topic, but just a little window into it, that I'm not an expert on mushrooms, but I'm learning. And this is Willie Crosby of Fungi Ally. He's a really great teacher. He does a lot of online classes. And he's based in like the Montague Greenfield area. And we're going to do a retreat on mushrooms and herbalism soon. So he came out for a workshop in Ashfield a couple weeks ago and just showed us so many different mushrooms. And he didn't know all of them either, which I loved. He was like, I'm not going to know all these, but at least getting like the right genus and you know, knowing what family they might fit in. And on the right here are chanterelles that we found, which are so delicious in butter or ghee.
Hannah,
Yeah,
we have a question,
great.
not relating to mushrooms, but any recommendations for repelling the mosquitoes on this very rainy summer? Here, here.
That's true. Yeah, the bugs foraging are always interesting. So mosquitoes and ticks, I use the same thing. I use this. I buy it actually. I make my own. I actually sell a bug spray, but I buy bug spray too, and it's called Cedar Side. It's all natural, made with cedarwood oil, and you can make your own really easily with just little water, little alcohol, and to preserve the water so it doesn't go bad, and then cedarwood essential oil. And then I add to it rose geranium oil. So those two, if you didn't want to make it super complex, really repel the ticks and the mosquitoes and horseflies and deer flies. I'm not sure. Those things are relentless, but at least the mosquitoes and ticks, it'll help for a while. And then, you know, you sweat it off and lose it. And so you just have to keep reapplying it. It's not like DEET that's going to really stay on there and eventually melt your flesh. Because I once had DEET on a camera bag when I was traveling in Ecuador, where there were so many mosquitoes. It was like, it was a different realm of mosquitoes. And the camera bag started to melt from the DEET. And that was the last time I ever used DEET, because I mean, it's like NOFA, you guys know. But yeah, what's it called? Rose geranium oil, cedarwood oil, and then anything in the lemon kind of lemongrass, lemon verbena, lemon oil, citrusy stuff will deter them as well. Okay, so this one's just kind of passed. It wasn't a great year for it. It's one of the mushrooms I know how to identify, and it is Reishi Ganoderma, or hemlock reishi, and it is the mushroom of immortality. It grows on mostly on hemlocks, and there are some from China too that are a little different, but I think that they're interchangeable. And I also think that the plants and the mushrooms and the food that we eat that's growing right here are just so much more like vibrant and medicinal for us, because they're our buddies. They're our local buddies. Like, they're growing here. They have adapted to the region. They have adapted to the bugs and the pests and the funguses and like all the bacteria in the air and the ground. So they're like, they've already got the immune system that works here in this region. So anytime, or even if you're traveling and you're like, don't know the plants, like ask the plant people what to do, because the stuff that you brought might not be as effective as what's growing there. Anyway, so Ganoderma has this beautiful shiny burgundy flesh and then a little white ring around it. And then as it gets more mature, the white ring just goes underneath it and it's all that red burgundy color and it's shiny, hence the varnish mushroom name. You want to harvest it a little bit later than what these are here. I just got really excited. I picked them, but you'd want to wait until the white is a little bit more gone, and you want to get them after they have gone to spore. So you would just touch the top and see if you have little like reddish dust on your fingers, and that's the spore of the mushroom, so that you're letting it do its seeding and sporing out before taking it out of the forest. One thing that's cool that Willie taught me is like, you know, with plants, I'm always like really delicate and careful and like, oh, is this too much? Is this enough? And Willie was just like picking things and then like breaking them up and spreading the mushrooms around, because he's like, you are transporting the spores of the mushrooms, and like you're covering yourself in them, and then you're walking through the woods. And we all probably walked out of the woods with like thousands of mushroom spores on us without knowing it. You can't really see them. So I love that like, you know, we are part of nature. We're not separate. We are not necessarily cultivating the mushrooms by walking in the woods, but we're assisting them in reproducing. Because, you know, I always get stuck in this like, oh, humans are so bad for the earth and the environment, but then there's like ways that we don't even know what we're doing for them, and maybe they have ideas for us. Like the Michael Pollan wrote a book about that, the ways that like certain crops and plants have kind of like guided us into how to grow them and quantities of growing them so that they can proliferate. But so this one is really great. It's more like May, June, so it's kind of gone by at this point, but you might see it in the woods right now. It's just kind of more mature. And it's great for the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, the blood. And Shen means spirit, and Jing means lifelong energy. So the energy that you were born with is what you will have for your whole life. So the Chinese say, don't blow all your Jing at once, because then you won't have any. So be, you know, moderate, use a little bit, but don't like burn both candles at both ends and just like do everything in your 20s and 30s and then be exhausted and have adrenal fatigue and get sick. So Reishi helps to really like build up Jing, build up blood, supports the kidneys, which is near our adrenals, which is our lifelong, you know, where our like lifelong amount of energy is coming from is from our kidneys. And we can't live without our kidneys. So caution with anticoagulant drugs and immunosuppressant drugs, because it will boost and strengthen the immune system. So if you're taking drugs to suppress the immune system, it might be contraindicated. But it is one of the best mushrooms out there. Well, there's so many good mushrooms, but reishi and chaga and what else would I put? Maitake are like the ones I use mostly for cancer prevention, recovery from cancer and chemo and radiation, because they help to like break down free radicals and basically like eat the way that they're like parasites on the trees, not parasites, but growing off of the trees. They look like cancer in a way, like little things that are growing and shouldn't be there. And it's like they're eating the gunk in us. So mushrooms, we're all going to be okay if mushrooms just take over after we're gone. This I won't go through.
Hannah?
Yeah.
Hi, it's Fern. I just want to let you know that it's almost 8:30, which is when the workshop should be wrapping up.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more you have, but just wanted to give you a heads up on time.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna skip this one, but go back to it because it says all the amazing things. And I'm gonna skip this one too because this is how to make a tincture, but it's really good reference to have because you have to do a different method for mushrooms than plants. So this is another thing you can harvest that's not around where I am, but up in Maine and the coast, seaweed is a wonderful edible, and bladderwrack and kelp, they all help to regulate thyroid production and are high in iodide and super nutritious. We don't have to often think about that as foraging, but I was there a few weeks ago, last week, and I was like, oh my God, so much food from the ocean. This is a recipe that you can try if you want to like make your own thing. This is one of my favorite tinctures that I make. It has tulsi and hawthorn and roses, and super easy, basic. Like if you want to get into making your own elixirs and tinctures and stuff, like you can use vinegar, apple cider vinegar, or you can use brandy or vodka. But I like the taste of vinegar and brandy a little bit more to preserve them. So that's a whole other class, but very simple, simpler than cooking. And this is the recommended reading list. It's long, but I will say that this book, if you were like going to get one book about foraging by Dina Falcone, Foraging and Feasting, is so good. And it's like so well illustrated. She has someone hand draw everything. She's on Instagram and all that, so you can follow her, and she posts different things about the plants that are available. And it's just really lovely to like be looking at a beautiful book that's got hand-drawn images of each, like the leaves, the petals, the root, the stem. And so, and I'll just end with this quote. I can't really see it though because of this thing. Oh, there we go. Great. This is from Robin Wall Kimmerer's book. To be native to a place, we must learn to speak its language. And our indigenous herbalists say to pay attention when plants come to you. They're bringing you something you need to learn. And this is so true because that's how I got here to this place of being curious about them, is that it's no coincidence that certain plants are growing in your backyard or on the street that you walk on or in the crevice of the sidewalk. So pay attention to what's growing where, because often the medicine that we need is right there beneath our feet. So thank you. And thank you to my teachers. If you have any last questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I will see you all another time, even though I can't see any of you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hannah. Lots of great knowledge, and there's so much there. We don't want you to miss out on anything. I just reposted the link to all of the handouts and all the information you might need. And also, please remember our auction. It helps us keep running for the next 50 years, just raising more money. Visit our vendors, go to the marketplace, spend money. They need our help. And please do the evaluation. All of the links are posted in the chat at the moment. Again, if you have any last questions, now's the time. Otherwise, thank you so much, Hannah, for leading us through all this foraging. There's just so much information. I guess I have a question. Do you do foraging walks if people want to actually do live and in-person stuff?
Yeah, I do a lot of them. I do private ones, and then I do workshops a lot more in the spring and early summer, and then a little more in the fall. I don't do as many in the heat of the summer because I'm busy in my garden. But yeah, check out my website, and I have all of them listed there. And then I also do a 9-month long apprenticeship. So we do every month a different season, different element, and then the herbs and wild edibles that are available for each month. So yeah.
Great. Well, thanks again. Again, you can check out all the links in the chat about how to find Hannah, as well as things around NOFA. Again, everybody, thank you so much for participating once again in our virtual conference, and hope to see you in person next year.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Hannah.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.